I'm Hind. This is a recent piece I did called Bryce, and it is done with palette knives and acrylic paint, and it's 18 by 24. I chose this picture because I wanted to do something involving rocks, like landscape-wise, and I thought of like the days from my childhood when we'd go camping down in southern Utah. So I asked my cousin, who's a photographer, who recently went down to Bryce Canyon in southern Utah, if she had any cool pictures, and she sent me a lot, but I like this one specifically because I like the spot and how interesting like the different shaped rocks are, and the depth of like it going back into the canyon. And I also chose this one because the color of the sky and how it complements the color of the rocks and how that looked together. So, and going through this, it was a big adjustment going from paintbrushes and trying out palette knives because it's so loose. Get used to being okay with like there being some jagged lines, like or that line not being like perfectly straight, which is good because like it's rocks, you know, so it doesn't like, it works well. Okay, so this is another painting I've done called Bicycle and the Bluebird. It's with acrylic paint, and it is 18 by 24 inches. When I first started out doing it, I did the background too dark because acrylic dries darker, and so it was darker than I had originally intended it to. So I just adjusted the tone of the painting with the middle ground and the foreground so that would match the background, and I like how it turned out. There was a lot of layers that went into it, especially with the grass, because I struggled with the foreground, middle ground, and background, like the level of detail diminishes as you go further back. And so I struggled with the grass in the middle ground because I had at first I did like not enough detail, but then I had some detail and it was too much. So there was a lot of thinking and lots of layers that went into getting it how it is now. The foreground, I think, was my favorite part with all these bushes and stuff. I think it was the funnest part, but it took a lot of planning out and making sure like the highlights and the shadows were in the right places. This is a watercolor piece I did. It is 15 by 16 inches, and my teacher gave me this subject to practice watercolor techniques, especially in people. It was definitely a learning process for me, learning how to blend those layers, especially back like at the top, like on his forehead, where it's supposed to be like a smooth transition. There's lots of like water that goes into it, and scrubbing out the hard edges with the water, and also building up layers in the shadows to get the color more saturated in the shadows but still keep the highlights white. And like going through this learning process of how to do that, I kept on thinking, okay, I think I'm done, but every layer I would go back and add more and more until I got it to how it is now.